We're going to hear a theory from someone we've heard on the show before. We're going to get to that after. Mint Mobile, if you're still worrying about overpaying for wireless, it's time to say yes to saying no. At Mint Mobile, their favorite word is no. No contracts, no monthly bills, no overages, no hidden fees, no BS. I said yes to making the switch and getting premium wireless for just $15 a month. Mint makes it simple. All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. You can even bring your own phone and keep your same phone number and contacts. Ready to say yes to saying no? Make the switch at mintmobile.com/LockedOnNFL. That's mintmobile.com/LockedOnNFL. Required upfront payment of $45. Limited time new customer offer for 3 months only. Speeds may slow down above 35 gigabytes on the unlimited plan. Taxes and fees are extra. See Mint Mobile for details. We're going to talk about the Cavs players-only meeting in about 10 minutes. So at 11:45, we're going to pivot over to the Cavs. We got to play a little clip from the Nightcap podcast, with Shannon Sharpe and Ocho Cinco. We played a bunch of their clips throughout the season in the lead-up to kind of where we are now. And Shannon Sharpe threw out a theory last night that we got tagged in no less than 400 times online on Instagram. So we had to address it. Here's Shannon Sharpe and Ocho Cinco last night.
That looks like it might be promising. They still have an issue with that. So it looks like what they're trying to do, based on some of the things that we've seen, some of the things that we've heard come out of that locker room or that organization in general, they still don't think the person that is at the helm right now is the answer. They don't.
Yeah. I mean, and I really hate to feel this way, but a part of me is like, yeah, we're going to let him start the rest of the season. Oh, Bears, Bills, Steelers, Bengals. If I'm Shedeur, I'm like, nah, I'm good. I already showed y'all what I can do. Put Dylan in there.
Nah, matter of fact, I want him to play against the Bears. I want him to play against the Bills. I want him to play against the Steelers because I want him to show that I'm a competent quarterback and I can compete at the highest level as a rookie if given the right amount of time to prepare.
Right.
That's what I want him. I want him to have.
No. You, Ocho. But this is not a mistake. They picked these games and why couldn't you name his ass the starter 3 games ago? Why was it week to week? Because you know what? Every time he don't want to answer a question, he always say, "Well, I don't want to get into that."
Right.
I don't want to get into that because they ask him before, is Shedeur going to start? Well, I don't want to get into that. Let's look at the film and all that. Bro, you know.
Wait. No. That's not true. That's not true. Because after the first game and they asked him, is he going to start the next game? He wanted to see if he could do it again. Mm-hmm. What is he going to look like again? If he looked bad, what's the first thing you think Stefanski was going to do? He's going to put Dylan Gabriel back in there. Mm-hmm. That's why he had to. All right, I don't want to answer that right now. I don't know. But Shedeur gave you no choice. Man, could you imagine after he played this game, after he played this last game and the game before that, if he was the bench, you took bench Shedeur, you talk about losing your locker room? At that point, I guarantee you one of the veterans would have spoken.
So every day, almost every morning and every evening, I wake up and I see and I spend a little time on social media, which I've cut down my social media a lot, but I still spend too much time on social media. Because I want to revel in the positive aspects of it, connecting with fans and getting, like, I have my lists for football and baseball and entertainment so I can read interesting stories about things I care about. But what I also have because of social media is every day I see headlines in sports and, of course, in politics where I'm like, this can't be real. Is this an Onion article? Like, are we serious here? Like, what has happened to people in this country that have lost their minds? And Shannon Sharpe and Chad Johnson were great football players who know the game, know the people in the game. I don't know what's happened here, but obviously what they're saying is insane, and they've lost their mind. And Chad Johnson, Ocho Cinco, is one of my favorite players of all time. I love him. I think he's a great entertainer. I thought he was a great player. Even though he did a lot of antics, I actually never found him to be a selfish player, even though he did a lot of things on the field that could be construed as selfish. I always thought of him as a good team guy. But the stuff they're saying here, Shannon Sharpe saying that Shedeur Sanders should refuse to play? Is he crazy?
It was like a tinfoil hat segment.
I
mean,
literally
it's
thought
crazy.
he was kidding.
Yeah, I know. Like to think
I thought he was at the end of it going to say, no, man, of course he's got to play.
What kind of advice would that be to give?
It's crazy.
Could you imagine? Okay, let's just say for a second that he was to follow that advice.
Yeah.
Shedeur walks into Kevin's office and said, look, I've looked ahead at the schedule. We got some real teams coming up. I'm good. Could you imagine what would happen if he actually would have taken that advice? Dion, who I think it's an unfair bad rap by a lot of people, Dion would never give his kid that advice.
What? It's insanity.
It is.
cower.
It's sabotage. It's self-sabotage. No, I'm good. I've proved I can do it. I beat the Titans. Well, he didn't beat the Titans. I'm sorry.
Shedeur Sanders would be out of the league if he did that.
He'd be, and rightfully so. What coach
he would
wanna
never do that, of course.
Never.
Never.
But if you just silo that advice
Yeah.
and forget who said it. See, sometimes the person that says it changes the weight of it. And I think that's here. If anybody else on the internet would have said that, anybody
Yeah, if
that didn't have that kind of a profile, they would have been laughed off the internet.
I mean, it's
So here's the advice, Shedeur. I want you to go into Kevin Stefanski's office, and I want you to tell him, quote, I'm good.
I'm good.
I don't want to play against these teams. These are good teams. I think you're sabotaging me. Why didn't you name me the starter for good 3 weeks ago? And then Ocho Cinco said, well, why you didn't name him the starter 3 weeks ago? He says, I want to take a look. I'm going to be week to week. And what would have happened if he performed badly? But he would have put Dylan Gabriel. That's sports. That's sports. Like, how many times have we seen quarterback number 2 come in, perform poorly, go back to quarterback number 1?
right. And
Like, it happens all the time.
in fact, if Dylan Gabriel had played, like Dylan Gabriel lost his job because he got hurt. However, if he had been playing really well, he would have gotten it back when
He
he
would
came
have,
back.
yes.
But because he wasn't playing well,
That's right. Now we got to see what
we
quarterback
got
2
this
has.
guy. And then once he played, like Shedeur, and once Shedeur Sanders, you could have argued you should have named him the quarterback for the rest of the year. However,
Earlier, you mean?
earlier.
Yeah.
You could argue.
Yeah, you could argue that.
if you want. But the first 2 games he started, I don't think he played well enough in those games to say, "Oh, no doubt, you got to start him the rest of the way." I would have personally.
Yeah.
But I can understand why you maybe didn't. But obviously, this third game, he played his best game. It's the best game played by a Browns quarterback this year.
now you've got to see.
Obviously, you're going to start him the rest of the way.
Did you guys talk about Albert Breer's comments yesterday? Have we talked about those yet? I meant to send those to you.
We have. Well, because he said it yesterday afternoon. So.
Yeah, I figured
Yeah.
when I saw the rundown for today that it must have come out earlier
what
and it was discussed
specifically?
yesterday.
Yeah, what specifically?
When I read Albert Breer's comments, I said, oh, Kevin's done and he knows he's done.
Which comments are you referring to?
He made comments that these are not Kevin's decisions. Kevin is not making a lot of these decisions and that Kevin's not happy about it. To me, my takeaway from Albert Breer's comments was very simple.
Yeah.
Kevin's gone and he knows it. Why? Because he's talking. We're hearing what Kevin Stefanski is thinking. When have we heard that? He doesn't do
yeah.
that. And we know Albert's close to the Browns. He's a great reporter. When I read something from Albert Breer, I say, oh, okay, that can take this to the bank. He's getting this from someone good. The comments that he wrote yesterday, I think it was actually, it looked to me like it was taken from a radio interview because it didn't look like the written word.
Yeah, Albert used to come on our show.
He goes on our afternoon.
And
Yeah, so
even
he
though
must have been
he still
on-
goes on the show.
And I don't
the
know that it was
afternoon show.
92.3. It might have been.
It was.
It was.
It might have been.
It was. He does only that show in Cleveland.
Yeah.
No, it could have been a national show. I don't know.
Oh,
It wasn't
okay.
attributed to anything,
Right,
which
right.
I found odd because as I was reading it, I'm like, this is poorly written. This
I
isn't
know he
Albert
was on
writing.
yesterday, so-
Okay, if he was, then it must have been from that interview.
I just found it was from his Monday morning quarterback column.
Okay,
Oh,
okay. See, but that surprised me because it wasn't as well written as Albert usually is. It sounded to me like it was a written comment, or I mean a spoken comment,
Yeah.
not a written one. Do you want to read it, Mike, to give our viewers context?
Yeah, let me pull it back up here 1 sec.
My first takeaway was, oh, Kevin's gone. Kevin's gone and he knows he's gone.
I can't believe I didn't see more of this.
You know what? I got to fall on the sword on this one. I should have sent it to you. I assumed that it had been discussed on the show yesterday.
Yeah, it came out on Monday.
dropping the ball.
I
Okay, so
totally
it's
missed this.
it's my fault that
This is what Albert Breer said in his Monday morning quarterback column. Quote, the one thing that would be really frustrating for me if I were the coach in Cleveland is you've been trying to make decisions for football reasons and no one will accept them. I can tell you, just knowing the number of people that I know who work there, that the quarterback situation was handled this year over the last 6, 7, 8 months in a way that was based solely on how the guys were performing in practice. It makes Stefanski look bad now because Shedeur played well. If you're Kevin and you're making all of these decisions based on football decisions and you've made a lot of other decisions over the years and they're constantly second-guessing this way and that's constantly a circus, well, would you be sick of it? Has this just become, quote, you know what, this hasn't worked out for either of us over the last couple of years, so maybe it's just time, end quote.
I have no sympathy for Kevin Stefanski at all.
No, I didn't say I did.
Yeah.
When I read that, my take, and I know what you're going to go because it's exactly what I said.
Yeah.
When you gave the rope to these clowns in the first place,
Yeah.
don't be mad that you can't wrestle it back from them.
Exactly.
And I get it. He's a new first-time coach. He comes in. He's got to defer to ownership. But at some point, you realize in this league really quickly. I remember Rex Ryan saying this fairly early in his tenure with the Jets because Rex had some battles with management, and he just said, look, if you don't like it, fire me. And Rex was winning those battles because the general manager realized, I can't fire him. I'm a couple games into his tenure. I'm going to have to let him coach.
Right.
And a very similar situation in New York that we have in Cleveland. And I bring that up because coaches will tell you early on, if you defer early, you never get that power back. And Kevin deferred early. There were decisions that were being made early in Kevin's tenure that should have been made by Kevin that weren't. One of them that wasn't exactly early, but it was the middle of his tenure, was they made him fire Van Pelt.
And that's the moment.
And that was the moment he lost the tug of war.
And you know what? If the Browns would have fired him then, if he said, hey, if you fire Alex Van Pelt, I'm gone.
Which he could have forced them to do.
We keep hearing everybody loves Kevin Stefanski around the league. If that's the case, I'm sure they loved him even more 2 years ago when that happened.
He would have been hired immediately.
Exactly. So he should have stood up to the owner. I don't want to hear about this. He's wrong in this situation. There's nobody that could reasonably think Dylan Gabriel's better than Shedeur Sanders. I don't see how anybody
No,
could
and
think that.
I'm not sure that he was talking about that per se
I don't know
in that comment. I think what he was talking about was, and we watched it in real time unfold, and we kept saying every day, what in the hell are they doing here with quarterbacks? Going back to the decision to bring Kenny Pickett in first, and then you bring Joe Flacco in, and then you release Kenny Pickett or trade him, and then you trade Joe Flacco, and all of us are going, I can't keep up with this. It's like a tennis match. I head on a swivel here. And obviously, to me, it reeked of someone that just didn't have an overall plan pulling these strings. There was no way Kevin was making any of these calls. I knew that. Everybody knew that.
Yeah. Well,
and
certainly
I think
the Flacco trade,
any of it. And I think what Albert Breer is talking about is, and I also think he's getting some of this from Kevin. I do.
Probably.
And I can't say certainly.
Or somebody in Kevin's
camp. Or
camp.
someone in Kevin's camp. Because the line to me at the end where he said, I think it's time to say mutually, it's just time for this to end.
Yes, 100%.
If you're watching and paying attention what's going on in Philadelphia, I think this is very important. I would not be shocked at all if the following happens. Philadelphia misses the playoffs, fires their offensive coordinator, who right now is as popular as Canada was in Pittsburgh 3 years ago.
No.
They are they don't even blame Jalen Hurts for the 5 interceptions the other night. Everybody in Philly is blaming the offensive coordinator. We know Kevin is from Philly. It would not surprise me one bit if at the end of the year, Kevin leaves Cleveland either on his own or is fired and ends up as the offensive coordinator in his hometown of Philadelphia.
Maybe.
Wouldn't surprise me one bit.
I don't know. There'll be a lot of vacancies at the end of the season. We'll see. I said this the other day. I think you could make an argument that every coach in the AFC North needs to change, including Harbaugh and Tomlin.
Well,
that's time for a change.
If Pittsburgh or Baltimore believe that, and I'm Cleveland, I'm burning up the phone to Pittsburgh and Baltimore.
Well, I would argue
I'd take John Harbaugh or Mike Tomlin all day, every day.
I would argue that Harbaugh has taken, I feel like, no blame for the failures of Baltimore. If people put all the blame for the failure of Baltimore in the playoffs on Lamar Jackson, and obviously he deserves some of the blame, no doubt. But their game plans in some of those
No, you're
playoff
right.
games have been terrible.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
And I feel like he's
Can't argue
Teflon.
that.
yeah, but if either one wants
They're
to
great,
discard their
right.
coach, please send them to Cleveland.
Yeah, but would either of them come here?
That's a really good question because they'd probably have
Yeah,
better.
why would they go
They'd
here?
probably have better options. I can't imagine. There is some tie to Ohio with Harbaugh.
The Harbaughs have Ohio ties.
Yeah,
I mean,
his mom and dad went to Bowling
he
Green.
went to Miami, Ohio.
Yeah, he's got ties here. I could
Neither
see
one
it.
of them is going to want to put up with Jimmy Haslam, probably.
Well, that's the problem.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think you're going to get a seasoned coach or a coach with any kind. I think you're going to get guys that are dying to coach in the
That's
league
right.
for the first time, and that's what we've always put up with here.
Yeah.